Hi, welcome to my basement. This is creative writing fiction, COM 300. I'm Dr. Daniel Larson. You can call me Dan. So, a lot of people have said that teaching creative writing is impossible. I don't think that's true. It's actually really easy to learn creative writing. Here, let me show you. There's 4 steps to it. Step number 1, be interesting. Step number 2, don't be uninteresting. Step number 3, well, that's what really the class is all about. We'll get there. Step number 4, great writer. See, it's simple, right? Easy to become a great writer. I mean, of course, it takes a little bit more than that. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I got to say, I can't make you into a great writer. That's not really something that can happen in the context of a classroom like this. Not something that we can do in the 3 months we're going to have together to exchange some stuff. A lot more goes in to becoming a great writer, and partly it's because writing is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of work. I can't really teach you to be a great writer. I can teach you certain things about writing, though. I can teach you, for example, the craft of writing fiction, things like character or dialogue or plot, setting, description, point of view. And doing this, sort of, maybe think of it like, we're learning how to do a magic trick. I'll never make you a wizard, I'm sorry, but I can show you how to get the rabbit out of the hat. I can also teach you not just craft elements, but also how to cultivate a habit of writing. One of the things we'll find in all of the great writers that we're looking at is they live a lifestyle that treats writing as a kind of ritual, a habit that they engage in again and again and again. Not something they do just once, something they do continually. We get this kind of screwed up idea that writing happens when you get struck by lightning or something like that. Now you have an idea and you go write it down. That's not real life. Writing is work. It's a cultivated habit, a ritual that we can engage in. I can teach you that habit. I can also teach you how to analyze a text. Look, maybe you don't want to be a great writer to begin with. Maybe you just want to know more about short stories. What we can get out of this class is a way to engage an aesthetic work of art and to be able to judge an aesthetic work of art. We have to be able to look at a story and say, this story is bad. And have good reason to say this story is bad. So I've put the class together in a certain kind of way that's going to lead us towards those things. I've put the class together, if you see on Moodle, I've put it together by week. So every week we have a new module, and in that module you have certain assignments. You'll have a lecture that'll come up hopefully around Sunday. You'll have a few writing prompts and a few readings and things for you to be working on. We'll meet every Friday. We'll get together on Zoom and we'll talk about stuff. We're going to meet together as a group, and then we'll split out into our collaborative writing groups. Throughout the whole term, you're going to be assigned to a collaborative writing group. The first half of the semester, you're going to spend working on a story together. You're going to generate a story as a group. The second half of the semester, we'll be working on workshops and workshopping your own stories. Across the term, you're going to produce 3 stories. The first story is going to be due in 2 weeks on the 4th. This is a quick turnaround. I want you to crank that story out right away. It's important to figure out how to write a story from beginning to end. I'll have a prompt up for that so you can see exactly what it is that we're looking for on this. The second story is a more substantial story. You'll spend some time drafting and writing and working on that. This is the story you're really going to show off the things you're learning in this class. The draft will be due in the middle of the semester, and the second half of the semester we'll spend workshopping that with your collaborative groups. The third story is going to be kind of a work in progress. That'll be due at the end of the year in your final portfolio. Again, there's going to be prompts for all this stuff online that you can read all about it there. But look, the main thing I wanted to talk about today with you is what it is that we're doing here. We're writing stories. What does it mean to write a story, and how do we engage in this act of writing? What do we have to do for this? I'm going to give you 5 theses on writing. My 5 theses on creative writing. It used to be 4 and that wasn't enough, so now I've got 5 theses on creative writing. The first is that writing always begins a dialogue with expectation. I mean, we know why we read, right? We read to be satisfied. We read to find joy and satisfaction. Sometimes there's like an ironic satisfaction that we get when I'm not satisfied and I'm satisfied by being not satisfied. The reason why we read is to feel satisfaction. Well, how does a writer generate satisfaction in a reader? They do it by raising expectations subverting expectations, and then fulfilling those expectations in an unexpected way. This is what creative writing does. It engages in a dialogue. It shapes and refines the expectations of a reader. The second thesis on writing is that writing takes chances. Writing vitalizes metaphors. It takes these well-known constructions and breathes new life into them to make them exciting again. Let me show you what I mean here. Look. So think of it like this. You've got 4 quadrants. And on these 4 quadrants, you've got a few opposites. You have down here things that are the same, that are boring, that are known, that are recognized. And up here you have the opposite of same, which is different, something new or exciting or unusual. You have discernible on one end, right? This is the things that we know and can encounter. This is things that we can readily make sense of when we see them. And on the opposite side of that, we have ambiguous, things that are hard for us to see. Now, once we have these 4 quadrants set up, we can see what happens at their intersections. Things that are both different and ambiguous, we find confusing. Things that are the same and discernible, we often find comforting. Things that are ambiguous but the same are boring. Things that are different and discernible, that's where you want to be. That's what is interesting. Look, this is one of the really cool things about creative writing. We get to make language weird. We get to use descriptions that sound completely off base. One of the things you get to do as a writer is take chances to play around a little bit. Now look, I feel like I should add a caveat to this because we're at a Christian school, and a lot of times people get kind of freaked out about writing something that's going to send them to hell or something like that. Or, the other side of that is you get so hell-bent on writing the perfect theological treatise that you find yourself wondering, am I ever going to say something that's not heretical? Let me try to put your mind at ease a little bit here. There is no heresy of the imagination. Or maybe I could say it another way. The only sin against the Spirit is blasphemy. Go ye therefore and find out what this means. The third thesis on writing. Writing is always a public act. Now when I say writing is a public act, I don't mean like you gotta, mask up and go sit on the bus somewhere and do some writing like that. Please don't do that. When I say writing is a public act, what I mean is that writing is always invested in a dialogue. It's talking with its readers, but it's also talking with the other texts that surround it. Everything you've ever written has been part of a dialogue. All texts are part of a dialogue. You don't do yourself any service by pretending like it's not. It's better to recognize what that dialogue is so you can best find a way to address it. The fourth thesis on writing. Writing threatens your rational critic. This can be kind of scary sometimes. Look, your great, beautiful mind that has done all this work to make sense of the world and pursues truth. That's fantastic. But there's a lot of limitations to that, right? Everything we have locked away in our rational mind is built from the structures that surround us, which means they're inherently limited. One of the things creative writing can do and creative work in general can do is find a way to circumvent those barriers, or at least push up against them. Neil Gaiman puts it this way. He says, a writer's job is to explode. One of the things we do when we're writing creatively is not to pull everything back down to something that readily makes sense. Instead, we let the text open up a dialogue even with us. Sometimes we find the first expectation that we have set is our own. Fifth, and this is a really big one, writing is hard. Writing is emotionally hard because you gotta be honest with yourself. When you're doing this process of discovery, you'll find things out sometimes, and maybe you won't always like those things. You have to have an emotional strength to be a writer. Not just an emotional strength, you have to have a spiritual fortitude to be a writer. Because as you write, you're going to discover things. You're going to find yourself in places of frustration. And look, this emotional openness is going to break you. One of the things we get from that, though, is that writing does build character. If you pursue this task of writing and you pursue these habits of writing, you're going to find that you're building virtues along the way. Have you ever seen like a lens that breaks? Right, I'm using lenses right now. Right, I've got one on the camera over here too. A lens is a really powerful thing, right? It's a piece of glass, and yet somehow that piece of glass has a way of bending the light to its will. It curves light around so that it can focus it and direct it in a pinpointed kind of way. That's what rationality does, right? Is that it finds a way to bend everything around to its will. But to be a creative writer is a little bit different. Being a creative writer is a little bit more like a broken lens. Have you ever seen a broken lens? And when it reflects the light, it doesn't just bend the light, it separates the light. It distills the light into its separate colors. And sometimes, if the sun hits it just right, something shines through in ultraviolet that we couldn't have ever seen before. The job of being a creative writer is like being a cracked lens. We let the light shine through, we filter it out, but we break it apart into all these new ways and a new way of seeing it, and sometimes a way that has never been seen before. Hey, I'm excited about this class. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad you're here. Okay, bye.